going on, sports family? I'm Ken Cruz, and you're watching EBC Sports International. We have an amazing episode for you today where we'll be talking about major topics in the world of sports. Before we start, I need to introduce all of you to our wonderful panel who will be joining me in today's show. First, from Seattle, Washington, we have Michael Hudson.
What is going on, everybody? Dude, Ken, I feel like we have not been on the same show for quite some time. Glad to be back with you, my man.
Yeah, they just keep scheduling us separately. I mean, they're scared of the magic that can happen. So, but we have magic tonight, brother. Thanks for joining. Next, we have from Las Vegas, Nevada, we have Brian Sanson.
What's up, Ken? What's up, everybody? Excited to talk sports with y'all.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. And finally, from Toronto, Canada, we have Adian Pangilinan.
Hey, I'm honored to be on the Mount Rushmore of EBC Sports panelists. That's Michael Hudson and Mr. Ken Cruz. I can't wait to start the show.
We are honored. Thank you so much. Now I'm rosy-cheeked and nervous. So thanks so much for joining me, fellas. And as a kind reminder to all of the viewers, we're just a group of friends discussing sports, and by no means are we sports experts. But before we get into our main topics today, we have some updates to share with you. So Mike was able to cover his first NBA game of the season for EBC when my LA Lakers visited the Portland Trail Blazers. Mike has a report.
Sports fans, I'm here at the Moda Center in Portland, Oregon, where the Portland Trail Blazers took on the Los Angeles Lakers. And to be honest with you guys, it wasn't much of a game. The Blazers led wire to wire, being up as much as 34 points as they defeated the Lakers 105-90.
The Blazers started out red hot, getting back-to-back three-pointers from star guard Dame Lillard. They closed out the quarter quite impressively, leading 36-14. Speaking of Dame Lillard, he bounced back from a difficult shooting night just the night before, leading all scorers with 25 points, eclipsing the 17,000-point career mark. He shared some of his thoughts on this historical achievement.
I felt good. I've hit my first shot a few times, this season, but that didn't mean I was going to have a good shooting game. It never ends in one game. It's putting games together and continuing to fight that fight, and keeping your mind right. Came to the arena, I was just ready to play. I wasn't thinking about last night or anything like that. I was just ready to play. I thought I shot the ball better, not as good as I would have liked to for some of the opportunities I got, but I shot the ball better, saw it go in, and we got another win, so.
Jusuf Nurkic backed up Lillard's performance with a double-double, scoring 15 points and grabbing 17 rebounds. Lakers forward and former Blazer Carmelo Anthony led the Lakers with 12 points as the Lakers just were not able to get anything going offensively.
The Lakers were a little bit shorthanded tonight. Obviously, LeBron James has been out for a week with an abdominal strain. Anthony Davis left tonight's game with some stomach issues, and Russell Westbrook continues to struggle from the field goal percentage, only shooting 1 for 13 tonight. So we'll see if the Lakers can bounce back. But tonight was the Portland Trail Blazers night. Reporting for the Moda Center in Portland, I'm Michael. Eagle News, we live in interesting times.
Work, Mike. Looking good. And great press seats. We got a 2-for-1 for you guys as our very own EJ Gonzalez also covered his first game of the NBA season when the defending champs, the Milwaukee Bucks, came to town to face the Washington Wizards.
The Washington Wizards took on Giannis Antetokounmpo and the Milwaukee Bucks in Washington, D.C. at the Capital One Arena. Although the Bucks are the defending NBA champs, surprisingly, it's the Wizards who's had a hotter start to this NBA season. The Wizards were coming off a dominating win against the Memphis Grizzlies, where all 5 starters scored in double figures for a balanced offensive performance. While in this game against the defending champions, it was Bradley Beal who led the team with 30 points, 5 rebounds, and 8 assists. The Bucks were missing Brook Lopez and Chris Middleton in this contest, so Giannis carried a heavy load and finished with 29 points, 18 rebounds, 5 assists, and even chipped in 3 steals. This was a close contest, which featured 18 lead changes, but in the end, the Wizards defeated the Bucks 101-94. The Bucks now fall to 4-6 on the season, while the Washington Wizards improved to 7-3, making this their best start in the last 7 years. The Wizards continue their hot start and have beaten some notable top teams of the East, which include now the Bucks, Boston, and the Hawks. In Washington, D.C., from the Capital One Arena, EJ Gonzalez, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
Thank you, EJ. EBC and the NBA, name a better combo. How about EBC and marathons? Well, our LA crew covered the 2021 LA Marathon this last week. Here's their report.
John Creer from Kenya and Natasha Cockram of Wales are this year's men's and women's LA Marathon champions.
With finishing times of 2:12:48 and 2:33:17 respectively, we spoke with John and Natasha, who incidentally each records their very first marathon victories here in the City of Angels.
I've trained for this marathon for 5 months. That's 3 months without speed work and then 2 months for speed work. I'm not tired. I'm feeling like running another 10K. Yeah. All marathons I've run, they all defeated me in the finishing line. So I like this one because they know today there was no one to defeat me in the line. Looking forward to come and win again so that my brother win this race 2 times. So when I come back next year and win, we'll be winning. I will have win 2 times. My hometown India is so different. My hometown is so hilly and yes, flat. Los Angeles people are friendly. Yeah, anyone is your friend. Yeah.
A little bit disappointed with the time, but I couldn't expect too much because it's only 5 weeks post London and the course is quite hilly, so it's not a fast course. So yeah, I can't complain. It's not a bad time. I think that would have been a PB had it been a flat course. I think I'd be more prepared for the hills next time. I wasn't expecting it to be as hilly. So yeah, definitely. It's a great race. I'd love to come back and experience it all again. It is a lot of sacrifice, but I think anyone can do it. I mean, it's only really been the last 2-3 years that I've had this breakthrough to become elite runner. So yeah, I think if you want to do it, you can definitely do it. You just got to put your mind to it and make those sacrifices, put the work in, and you can achieve what you want to achieve. There's always times where you go through rough patches for weeks, sometimes even months. So at that point, sometimes you don't want to go out the door, but you just have to. You have to keep pushing through, get it done. I haven't really got any plans, like set plans, but hopefully another marathon in another couple of months. And then next year is a big year, what with Commonwealth, Europeans and Worlds. So have to decide what I'm going to do, and yeah, hopefully I'll have all 3 options. Like keeping focused now, so because I think the next year and next 2 years is so important with what Paris 2024. It's actually not that far away. So yeah, focus now. I've already gone for a mile jog, and I think maybe tonight I'll do a bit of aqua jogging just to keep the legs moving and recover, so I can get straight back out there training.
Stadium to the Stars are the words that describes this year's Los Angeles Marathon presented by ASICS, now on its 36th year, as more than 13,000 runners start from Dodger Stadium to run the 26.2 miles to finish at Century Park on Avenue of the Stars. Runners pass through well-known places and landmarks like Rodeo Drive, Hollywood Walk of Fame, and Little Tokyo.
Completing 26.2 miles is no small feat. Eva, why didn't you run?
Because I have small feet.
Well, being small-footed is no reason not to try to challenge oneself.
Because all you need to cross the finish line is to make sure your determination is big.
In Los Angeles, California, Eva and Alan, EBC Sports International, we live in interesting times.
Thanks, Alan. Always awesome. Always love your stuff. And lastly, we have from UFC 268 that took place last Saturday, and it was a slugfest. Adian's got the details.
Yes, thank you, Ken. I'm going to go ahead and say right off the bat that UFC 268 was the best card of the year. From top to bottom, the card was absolutely stacked. The UFC made their triumphant return to the Big Apple from inside Madison Square Garden. The card headlined Colby Covington and Kamaru Usman in their long-awaited rematch. Usman edged out Covington with a unanimous decision, earning his 5th straight title defense and 14th straight in the UFC, meaning he's only 2 wins away from tying the longest streak held by Anderson Silva of 16. But that's not all. Some more highlights. Rose Namajunas retained her UFC women's strawweight title with a close split decision over former champion Zhang Weili. Undefeated Irish prodigy Ian Gary had a massive knockout win in his debut with a first-round finish over Jordan Williams. And heavyweight Chris Barnett won via TKO stoppage when he sent a wild spinning wheel kick. You got to see it to believe it. And it connected right on the chin of Gian Villante. And former Glory double champ Alex Pereira, who's most known for being the only one to knock out current middleweight champion Israel Adesanya. Mind you, it was a kickboxing match. Well, he won his debut with a second-round flying knee TKO over Andreas Michailidis. But perhaps what overshadowed the entire night was the opening fight of the main card. It was a bloodbath and very deserving of the fight of the night. That was the fight between Justin Gaethje and Michael Chandler. The fighters were throwing bombs and exchanged devastating leg kicks while fighting in the pocket. Miraculously, the fight went the distance, and all 3 judges gave the fight to Gaethje by unanimous decision. And so perhaps we see Gaethje next in line for a shot at the UFC lightweight title. What an event. There's nothing like a full crowd at Madison Square Garden, and I was just happy to be a witness. Ken, back to you.
Thanks, Katie. And yeah, that Gaethje fight was absolutely insane. It was extremely riveting. I thought that the whole night, that was worth the price of admission. Let's just end it at that.
Pure violence from beginning. It's like Rock'em Sock'em Robots.
And the fact that both those guys were standing at the end was just insane.
Unbelievable.
Well, thanks again, Adia. And that's it for this week's sports news. After the break, we'll dive right into our topics, starting with the Scorchin. Warriors playing right now, actually. Stay right where you are. We'll be right back.
Ma'am, yung pumasok ng pandemya talaga sobrang dagok. Talaga grabe yung ginawa sa amin. Tapos sasabihan pa ng sakit ng asawa ko. Ultimo gamot, ma'am. Magkano lang yung gamot? 2, 3. Hindi ko pa mabili. Oh, siguro, pagsubok lang naman to. Hindi naman siguro ibibigay sa akin to kung hindi ko kaya.
Hindi nagsasalita. Naninikip yung dibdib niya. Tapos, pumunta ka na ngayon dito, kuya.
Ano naman? Puro kabiro.
And presence of uniformed personnel to enforce quarantine procedures.
Para kang superhero, Papa.
Isipin may makakain ka lang. Diba? Sabi nila na lalabas ka. Hindi ka ba niyawa sa anak mo paglabas mo? Hindi mo alam kung nakakuha na ng sakit. Di ba ganun? Ako inisip po. Kasi naman, hindi ako lumabas. Gutom naman kami.
Para sa isang tatay, napakasarap maramdaman na buong-buo ang tiwala ng iyong pamilya. Nasama-sama niyong malalagpasan at mapagtatagumpayan ang anumang hamon ng buhay. Kahit na mabigat na pagsubok ang pinagdadaanan natin, bagong pag-asa at bagong inspirasyon ang iahatid namin sa inyo.
Pinapangarap niya na mapagamot siya, ma'am. Ito na yung katuparan na para mapagamot siya. Ito na yung katuparan na para mapagamot yung misis ko, Sir Eduardo B. Manalo. Maraming salamat po sa naitulong nyo na ibinigay po sa aking pamilya.
Kaya kung kayo ay may kakilala, kaibigan o kamag-anak na nais nyong lingapin ang aming programa, ipadala nyo sa amin ang kanyang kwento. Ako po si Apple David at ito ang Lingap Stories.
Sports fans, this is EBC Sports International. Now, don't look now, but the Klay Thompson and James Wiseman-less Golden State Warriors have the best record in the NBA at 10-1, winning 6 in a row, actually. They lead the league in points per game, 115.9, average score margin at 13.6, and assists per game at 29.6. Insane. Mike, are these Warriors legit?
They are extremely legit. I mean, the Warriors are back, and here's why. During their reign of making it to the NBA Finals, winning 3, I believe they won 3 out of 5 years that they went to the finals. Should have been 4 out of 5, but we'll just go with 3 out of 5. They were top 3 in scoring and top 3 in defense, basically those whole 5 years. Right now, they're the number 1 highest scoring team offensively and the number 2 defensive scoring team in the entire NBA. So they're working it on both sides of the floor. I think that the Warriors from 1 to 12 are just clicking on all cylinders. And I mean, dude, look at Gary Payton Jr. I mean, he is just like the top unsung hero of the NBA right now. I mean, honestly, I saw him play in college. I didn't even think he was going to make it to the NBA. And then all of a sudden, I mean, he's posterizing people left to right. I had no idea he had that much athleticism. We all know who his dad was, how great of a defender and point guard he was. But I mean,
yeah, the Supersonics.
Yes, sir. But so you have guys like that, and you have people like Andre Iguodala is still doing his thing. You have Damian Lee, who's hitting the 3 ball very well and playing extremely good defense. And you're just having everybody that's just playing to their full potential. And oh yeah, like you mentioned, no Klay Thompson and no Wiseman. And so when those guys get back, they're gonna be taking it to even higher level. So right now, I definitely had them favored. And I didn't even mention Steph Curry. I mentioned the other guys. I mean, Curry.
We'll talk Steph Curry in a second. But how much of this is actually the coach and Steve Kerr knowing and putting together a team that, you know, pretty much has the same core that it's had all these years, as you mentioned?
Well, yeah, I mean, when your core are jump shooters, I think it's pretty easy to build around them because, I mean, you have you don't have a big guy you don't have people that get hurt all the time. I mean, obviously Klay had those freak injuries, but for the most part, the core has stayed relatively healthy for the majority of their tenure.
Yep, makes sense. Now, Brian, speaking of Steph Curry, aka the baby-faced assassin, 33 years old and still averaging 27.4 points per game, 6.5 rebounds per game, and 6.5 assists per game. Now, where do you rank him in the early MVP talk conversation?
Honestly, I don't think it comes close. He's having another MVP season, and he isn't even shooting at his usual 50, 40, 90 efficiency. He's averaging 27 points. He could probably average a lot more later on in the season. And there was actually a stat that I found really interesting, actually about Curry's season this year, at this time compared to last year. And they look very similar. And we all know what happened to him and his numbers as he went on into the season and had a crazy supernova year last year. And it looks like he might have that once again. And not only has Steph continued to put up those kind of numbers, but the entire team is just firing at all cylinders again. You got players that we already mentioned, Andre Iguodala's back. You got Jordan Poole, who has improved significantly. He is a baller now. He can be a third option on a Warriors team that is really looking to be going after another championship. So I honestly do not think that the record is a fluke right now. And I am so happy that the Warriors are back. This is the Warriors that we've all been waiting for. You know, the whole team is smiling again. They're having fun. Gary Payton's dunking on people. So I'm excited for this team.
Yeah, I mean, it's a highlight reel almost every play. It's crazy. Someone's doing it. Now, Adian, with Klay Thompson doing shoot-arounds, looking great, actually, you know, with all these IG videos that are being
full uniform.
Yeah, like looking like straight up he's about to run. But like guys like Andrew Wiggins and Jordan Poole, who have been getting all this PT with Klay Thompson not on the court. What's going to happen to those guys? I mean, are they going to be as efficient, as effective as needed when Klay Thompson, who is, you know, and a lot of people say one of the best 3-and-D guys in the league when he's healthy? What's going to happen?
I agree with you, Ken. I think there's an argument to be made that they will be more effective. Just because you look at the way these teams were built since 2015, it's all been about strength in numbers. And this team is the deepest team they've had in the last 3 years, and that goes without saying. But they have guys like Jordan Poole, who's taken the leap. Nemanja Bjelica, who's playing the best basketball he's played in years. Even Otto Porter, who we thought was pretty much out of the league last season, and he's kind of contributed and chipped in just a little bit. So guys like Andrew Wiggins and Jordan Poole, I think, will be more efficient because even though they may not have the ball as much, they're going to be wide open all of the time. When you got Klay Thompson and Steph Curry, the best 2 shooters in the league, it's going to be like they were in 2015. They're playing the Leandro Barbosa role, where all they need to do is just make a layup or make an open shot. I feel like they could be more effective. Maybe their numbers dip a little bit, but I think their efficiency goes up.
Nice. Yeah, and what hurts me the most is that I think they probably have the best set, not necessarily the best jersey, but I think the best set of jerseys in the league, and it's just hurting me how nice all of their jerseys are. I want one, but I'm sorry, I gotta rock Lakers all day. I had to squeeze that in there. But
LeBron's going there soon. Don't worry.
No, I would be highly surprised, but actually I wouldn't. I mean, LeBron has a way of getting himself into the best situation, so let's not rule that out. But on the other end of surprises, as far as teams early this season, the Warriors are actually, as I mentioned earlier, playing right now against the Chicago Bulls. The Bulls are tied for first in the Eastern Conference with the Wizards at 8-3. Now, we talked about the Bulls at the beginning of the season and how they can be dangerous with this roster. Well, it looks like they're as good as advertised based on the small sample size we have so far. Now, Adian, what makes the Chicago team so good?
They're just so solid, 1 through 5. And they've got a decent bench. That was the surprising part, I think, going into the season. I knew they had Alex Caruso. I knew they had Kobe White, even though he hasn't laced up for a single game yet. But other than that, there's kind of been journeymans like Javonte Green. Have we heard of this guy? Derek Jones Jr. He's a guy who played a little bit in Portland, a little bit in Miami, but he hasn't had a real opportunity to showcase his talent. So now all these guys are being pushed in, and even though they're without Patrick Williams for a majority of the season, they just play with so much force, so much speed, and they just punch you right in the mouth. Starting in the first quarter, it's like their attack is so balanced. They got Zach LaVine, who can take you one-on-one. You want to put a weaker defender on DeMar DeRozan? Okay, he'll take you one-on-one. And then Lonzo Ball is shooting lights out. He's turned himself into, we all thought, was the most broken jump shot in the league, and he's now one of the best shooters in the league. It's a fascinating story, and on top of that, they have a defensive swagger about him. Lonzo Ball, Alex Caruso, I think those two might be the most important free agent acquisitions the entire offseason for any team, and that's crazy because they have DeMar DeRozan too, but those two, I think, give them a new identity that they haven't had the past few seasons. And I'm going to say those two are one of the biggest reasons why.
Showtime Bulls is back now. Speaking of Alex Caruso, Brian, was the Caruso, Caruso was the meme last year, right? I mean, well, last couple of years. But in your opinion, is it time that we take his skill set and his team contribution seriously?
We should have taken it seriously when he first got drafted. I mean, Alex Caruso, you wouldn't think that he would have all of this athleticism and all this energy. And I mean, he is kind of balding too, which kind of contributes to him being a meme, but meme no more, Alex Caruso. He is the Caruso show, and he is a spark plug off the bench for the Bulls with that elite defense and I don't know if you guys know, but he's leading the league in steals off the bench, which is kind of insane.
I don't know what the Lakers were thinking. How did they not re-sign him?
Honestly,
I have no idea.
Travis.
I think on a side, it's they bet on THT, and it doesn't help that he's not playing right now. So that doesn't help. But
yeah, it definitely doesn't help. But I feel like they made a mistake in not signing him. He was obviously a team, a fan favorite, team favorite. He was like in a meme kind of way, like the third best player on the Lakers team, but he is probably one of the most important players on the team because he defends at one of the most important positions at the point guard level. So.
Yeah, no, I mean it's really shows just how much like someone that has that dog in him makes of a difference. And it's his energy and I think his passion has rubbed onto this team and has helped guys like Lonzo Ball focus on just shooting without thinking instead of having to deal with like the primary defender each and every game, right? He just focuses on facilitation, and then Zach LaVine focuses on the 360 dunks. Now, let's move on to what happened with the reigning MVP, Nikola Jokic, and Markieff Morris during the Nuggets versus Heat game this past Monday. Now, during the game, Markieff Morris shoved Jokic on his side at midcourt. Jokic retaliated by shoving Markieff as he was walking away. Now, Jokic was given a 1-game suspension for his actions, while Morris was fined $50,000 for inciting the altercation. Jimmy Butler was also fined $30,000 while trying to escalate the situation. And there's a funny picture of those guys like waiting outside the locker room. It was kind of weird, but I mean, I don't know. It looked like an album cover. But Mike, did the punishment fit the crime for both Jokic and Morris?
Good question. No, it did not fit the crime. I mean, come on. We saw the play. Jokic, I mean, he gets picked on all the time. It stems back to the bubble when the Lakers were just out physicaling him all the time. Dwight Howard was just pounding on him. JaVale McGee was pounding on him. And now these people are thinking just because he's just some European player that they could just push him around. And he obviously was standing his ground in that play. I thought he had every right to go back at Markieff because of what Markieff did. It's near the end of the game. I mean, Denver's up big. They're easily gonna win the game. And Markieff didn't have to do that. I mean, we're having a totally different conversation, and Markieff did an elbow to his face instead and knocked out Nikola Jokic on the ground or something like that, you know? So I think that Markieff definitely should have got suspended as well. But I think at the end of the day, Jokic was remorseful for what he did, and it just shows how much of a class act he is. But he wasn't wrong at all for going back at him.
What I really didn't like is Markieff. I mean, former Laker, also, championship guy with the Lakers in 2020. But what I really didn't like that he did was he shoved him and then he turns around knowing that he's probably going to get some sort of retaliation. And then he goes later on his IG saying that he's built different. You're not built different for turning around, Keith. Sorry. Now, Adian, do you think this punishment given the punishment given to both Markieff and to Jokic, does this encourage supporting players to rile up star players and potentially get them out of the game?
Sure, in some ways. I mean, this has always been a strategy, trying to get in star players' head and see what you can do. But Jokic is not the type of player you mess around with. You saw his brothers, right? This guy, this is like a Serbian gangster. I wouldn't mess with this dude. You don't mess with any of these crazy dudes from the Balkans. But yeah, Jokic is he's somebody you're not going to get in his head. You can try to bully him, but he's just bigger. You can try to be physical, but he's also just smarter. So maybe in other cases with other teams, that'll encourage players to attack the star players. But I was going to say I was disappointed in how his teammates reacted. Like, where were Jokic's teammates in the altercation? They kind of just all got in between, but nobody took a shot at Morris. Nobody even stood up for Jokic. What was going on there? That was kind of whack.
He didn't need help, so they're just
he
has it, man. He's fine.
Butler doesn't want that smoke.
I mean, he could have soloed that whole squad. No, I'm just kidding. Great points, guys, though. Thanks so much for your takes. Now we're going to take a little break, and NFL is right around the corner. EBC Sports International will return in a moment.
Simula ngayong November 20, may malalapitan ka na. Sisimula ng rumesponde ng bagong aksiman ng bayan. Alex Santos sa Responde, Mata ng Mamamayan, ngayong Sabado na. Simulcast sa Net25, Facebook at YouTube.
Welcome back, everyone. This is EBC Sports International. I'm your host, Ken Cruz. Now, it was a pleasant surprise for all LA Rams fans when former Browns wide receiver Odell Beckham Jr. was announced as their newest addition. Odell is a very polarizing player, and he joins an already star-studded receiving core of Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods. Ryan, is this overkill for the Rams, or does this improve their championship odds?
You know what, Ken? I think it improves their odds. Not by too much, because of the numbers that OBJ has been putting up with the Browns. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. He might just have been on the wrong team with the wrong QB in Mayfield. He might be a better fit with Matt Stafford, and I think it'll be a fresh start for him, especially on a contender like the Rams, where he doesn't really have to worry about being the number one option anymore now that you have a player like Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods on the team. And honestly, he got lucky that he got cleared on waivers. I mean, people were thinking he was going to get picked up by Detroit or something. So this is the best possible opportunity that he could have gotten. So he's got a lot of lingering injuries too. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt on that, which is why he might not have gotten to rhythm this season. So OBJ, he's definitely a low risk, high reward kind of guy. And at the very least, LA will get, more fans, more seats in the arena just from his namesake and his past reputation. So I think it's a win-win.
Yeah, no, I feel like he could fill that Deshaun Jackson role, right? I mean, where Stafford can easily just throw 1, 2, 3 bombs a game that only Odell can catch. And with those, I mean, that's a touchdown per game, almost guaranteed. But Mike, I know you're gonna love this question. Who is the biggest threat to the Rams in the NFC?
Oh, Ken, come on. TB12, man, come on. I mean, guys. I think the world
they did beat them. They did beat them earlier in the season.
Yeah, no Antonio Brown, Gronk, or JPP, but let's not overreact too much. But
Gronk played that game, but
he got knocked out the first quarter or something like that. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's going to come down to who do you want the ball in the hands the most? Is it going to be Tom Brady or is it going to be Matt Stafford? Let's look at the resumes. We look at Matt Stafford, who's 0-4 in the playoffs. Granted, it's with the Detroit Lions, but he had one of the greatest weapons anybody could ever have in Megatron and still couldn't get it done. We know Tom Brady's resume already. So, I mean, obviously, I think it's destined for these two teams to play each other in the NFC Championship. But I'm going to give the slight edge to the Bucs simply because the experience, simply because I feel like their defense is just a little bit better, especially when their secondary comes back from the numerous injuries that they have. Granted, the Rams have Aaron Donald, Von Miller. They're going to get to the quarterback, but nobody's quicker on getting rid of the ball than Tom Brady. And Bucs definitely the number one threat against the Rams.
I mean, how do you think the extra game is going to load on Tom Brady? Because I mean, he voiced out that he wasn't a big fan of it, and it makes sense, right, given his age. But I mean, based on his performance, I mean, anyone can answer this. Based on his performance throughout the season, do you think he's going to be able to make it to the end of the season? 1 and 2. Be as deadly as he has always been? I know this question is asked every single year, but is he showing signs of slowage?
No, I don't think so at all. I mean, to answer your question, I think it just really depends on where they're at, right? I mean, if they have a solid hold of the number 1 or even a number 2 seed, they may not even play their starters for that 17th game. So we'll see what happens. But I mean, let's look at his numbers. I mean, he's leading the league in passing yards. I think he's leading the league in touchdowns at 44 years old. I mean, it's absolutely incredible. I think at the end of the day, it's just going to really depend on what they are in positioning. Obviously, I think the Rams overall have a tiebreaker over them because they beat them earlier, even though they have the same record. But as far as their records go, or their schedule goes, I think Bucs have a little bit easier schedule ahead, so they have the chance to get to that number one spot.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a very exciting rest of the season. But we're going to stay with the NFL and controversial topic alert, guys. We're going to keep it light, but we have to talk about this because, it's literally one of the biggest stories in the NFL, not even just this season, but the last couple seasons. So, the repercussions for what's happened here, we don't know yet, but let's talk some facts real quick. So earlier this week, the NFL announced it would fine quarterback Aaron Rodgers $14,650. That's 14650 for violating COVID protocols. Rodgers originally tested positive for COVID last week. Rodgers received a lot of criticism for his comments and actions as he told reporters he was immunized, quote unquote, when asked if he was vaccinated. It was later confirmed that Rodgers has not been vaccinated. So to put Rodgers' fine into perspective, CeeDee Lamb of the Dallas Cowboys received a $20,000 fine, 20000, for his untucked jersey this season. Adian, I ask you again, does this punishment fit the crime?
I don't know that there's much debate about it, but clearly no. But there's so much that goes into it, right? I think the fine is so low because the NFL is admitting they fumbled this situation. How do you not have proof? Why is there no proof of vaccine? But he just had to say, I'm immunized, and we take his word for it. If so many different companies around the United States or even Canada can say, can you provide your proof of vaccination? And that's enough in order to work for that company. I don't see why it was implemented in this case. So to me, it's a little bit of protecting a star quarterback, the previous MVP of last season, and also admitting that, they might have made a mistake this time.
Yeah, I mean, it's challenging because, as you mentioned, it's the NFL is indeed a private business, right? Where they can enlist or enact any rule that they'd like, and the players will either have to abide or not abide. Just like, as I mentioned, the jersey tuck rule, and then there's fines for that. Now there's COVID protocols, and there's different rules for whether you're vaccinated, and there's rules for when you're not vaccinated. And it looks like there was some gray area following here in regards to this Rodgers situation, and that's what makes it tough. So Brian, does this fine show that the NFL, what does this fine show in which how the NFL views its stars, its star players, specifically like Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers, right?
Yeah, Ken. I mean, I'm just going to give out my opinion, but I'm not too sure why the NFL didn't take Rodgers' violation too seriously, and I got a little bit more insight from what Adian said earlier, and I understood that. But it also affects their revenue. I think when a star player is not on the field, especially when they have a game that's coming up on primetime television, maybe like what everyone said, it's because they gave Rodgers the star treatment. But I think it's, very deserving that it's getting all of the flack from all media fronts. And hopefully it gets a call to action as to how they're going to define COVID protocols and all of that. We don't really need to get too into it. But as far as, all of these fines, I feel like they should look into it a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing for sure we did miss out on was the State Farm game last Sunday versus with Aaron Rodgers versus Patrick Mahomes. Instead, we got Jordan Love, and that was a big shame.
Killed my fantasy.
They did Jordan Love's mom dirty, though.
Yeah, did you see the Jordan Love's family? Can you imagine the star quarterbacks gets literally the worst seats in the house. Like, what is? If anything, the NFL fumbled that even more. That was so embarrassing. And they put it on Bleacher Report. Oh my goodness, that was I remember seeing that live. I was like, I can't believe they are showing this on TV right now. This is such a bad look.
They didn't look happy either. They didn't look happy.
Like literally, like they could have. I mean, like I see like the most random guys on the field, and like this is literally the quarterback's family. That's at the top. Hilarious. Now, Mike, there is a chance that Rodgers might suit up this Sunday against your Seattle Seahawks, who may also have Russell Wilson back. Should both quarterbacks be on the field, what are your expectations for this game?
Yes, I think they will both be on the field because I think Aaron, he still needs a test negative. I think it's 2 times in a row before Sunday. But Russell was actually officially activated off the IR today, so he'll be playing on Sunday. But as always, the games between the Seahawks and the Packers are always historic. I mean, I go back to 2014 NFC Championship when he came back from that huge victory or that huge deficit to win and go to the Super Bowl. So that's amazing. But the Packers have our number. I mean, as far as regular season games go, I think Aaron Rodgers is I think his record is 7-2 overall against us. So it's not going to be easy. I mean, the Green Bay's defense looks amazing. They looked incredible against Patrick Mahomes on Sunday. And Russell's still not 100%. I mean, he said so himself at a press conference that he's probably 75-ish, 80%. So I think that's still better than anything that we had the prior weeks while he was out. But I think it's going to definitely be a high octane game. Our defense, Seahawks defense, is definitely going to be tested.
Yeah, well, let me ask. Last question of this block. What will it take for your Seahawks to beat the Packers?
Well, we're going to have to get pressure on Rodgers. I think with any quarterback of that magnitude, whether it be Rodgers, Mahomes, Brady, I mean, getting him out of the pocket or just getting pressure in his face is always going to pay dividends down the line. That's definitely one of the Seahawks' weaknesses is our defensive line getting consistent pressure. So we definitely have to do that. And also we're going to have to double Devontae Adams. I mean, that guy is, in my opinion, the greatest wide receiver in probably decades. I mean, the guy can catch he can run any kind of route. He can catch any type of pass. I mean, he can go deep. You can put him in the slot. I mean, this guy's an absolute beast. So we're going to definitely have to
Jordan Love. How about a pass from Jordan Love? If Jordan Love plays this game, will the Seahawks win?
They will. Seahawks will win. Jordan Love is, I don't know how, after last game, I don't know how, what they saw in him for him to perform like that against a super weak Kansas City Chiefs defense. I mean, I'm amazed. I just can't believe it. You're behind Aaron Rodgers for that long, learning from him every single day, and you come out like that. It's kind of concerning.
What really put him that guy in a really tough situation is that Rodgers waited his time behind Brett Favre all these years, and then when it was finally his time, he showed out right away, right? And so, for Green Bay, I mean, I know the expectation had to be a lot lower, but I think he performed even below that expectation, which was really disappointing. But I mean, that's that was his first big shot against a high-profile team. It's extremely difficult. Maybe if his family was on the field, he might have performed better, but we'll never know, guys. Now, appreciate the takes, fellas. When we come back, we'll be talking a little more NFL. Stay with us.
Isa ang Southeast Asia sa nangunguna sa industriya ng supply chain management. Ngunit dahil sa COVID-19 crisis na apektuhan ito, government restrictions have led companies to suspend operations and shut down factories. This is all happening while the manufacturing sector is already struggling with rising raw material costs. Paano nga ba makakabangon ang mga kumpanya? In this episode, we'll find out with our guest, Mr. George Santiago, General Manager of RS Components, as we discuss supply chain resiliency.
Companies should start with adopting digital transformation. But the good thing is, maganda yung competition, so maraming services and solutions that were made available.
All these in this episode of Open for Business.
Welcome back, everyone. So, more NFL topics for you guys before we close out our show. Cam Newton has reunited with the Carolina Panthers. Is this an upgrade from Sam Darnold? Ryan?
Ooh, man, Superman back on the Panthers. I mean, anything is better than Darnold at this point, to be honest with you. It's going to be another refreshing move for the fans after what looks to be a completely failed experiment in Darnold. I don't know if you saw the video, guys, but in the words of Panthers GM, he said, and I quote, "Sam is going to go, we're going to have to do something here with Sam." So that should really tell you what they think about Sam Darnold. They couldn't even come up with any words to say about how they're going to deal with, his situation. So with the signing of Cam Newton, it's for sure that Darnold is going to be placed on injury reserve and Cam is going to be their starting quarterback once again. And we thought it would be, we thought it was a Jets organization since, they're so terribly run, and the coach that they had that made Darnold look bad, but really Darnold is just bad all around. So, Newton wasn't really great on the Pats, but at least he'll have, that veteran leadership and that established chemistry with the team with the Panthers. So this is a good move moving forward with the Panthers.
So we got a couple extra minutes for your takes, guys. Mike, same question, but Cam doesn't have Ron Rivera this time around. How well do you think he'll perform for the rest of the season?
Dude, Cam Newton is just, I don't know, guys. Like, for me personally, I don't think this is a good move. I think he's done. I think he's one of those players that thinks he's a lot better than what he is. Like, he doesn't know his stock. He doesn't know his place, Yeah, his body looks amazing. When he works out and he posts like on Instagram and stuff, his workouts are pretty inspiring to look at. It makes me want to get out of bed and put up some weights. But look at his numbers, guys. When he was with the Patriots, he rarely passed over 200 yards. He was a shell of himself, and he was in an offense where you had an amazing offensive coordinator. His name escapes me, but he was with Brady for years, and Brady thrived, and Brady's like half the athlete that Cam Newton is. But yeah, to answer your question, Ken, as far as him thriving in Carolina, I don't see it happening. He has DJ Moore, who's a pretty good wideout. They have their defense is okay. They have they still have Gilmore that they got picked up from the Patriots. But the Panthers need a game-changing quarterback, and I know that they were trying to trade back for Teddy Bridgewater. Actually, they were talking to the Broncos behind closed doors to try and make something happen with that. And also, they were talking to a couple other teams to try and make a trade happen for the deadline. So even before Darnold got hurt. So I think this is a desperate move. I think they're in the state where they're trying to increase sales and get some box office going. And so Cam Newton's going to do that. But as far as making any noise or any progress with the franchise, I don't see it happening.
Well, you're right. I think if anything, this is great PR for the Panthers, because they weren't doing very well with Sam. So I think if it brings like good vibes to the team. Whether it performs or not, we'll have to see. But at least there's some familiarity there. I don't know if he has enough. He looks like he has enough juice left in his tank, but his performance last year was less than inspiring. Now, on to the next: Chiefs versus Raiders in a big AFC matchup this Sunday. Patrick Mahomes has had a rocky season, to say the least. Now, has the league figured him out, or is there something wrong with Mahomes? Let's go with Adian.
I gotta say it's a little bit of both. The Buccaneers might have solved something, and we see teams kind of replicating that defense they played in the Super Bowl. And also, he's just not making some passes that he's so accustomed to making throughout the past few seasons. His numbers are down. He's not hitting his targets. He's had a lot of, I would say, sloppy plays where the ball just gets turned over. And things just haven't been clicking. It's hard to blame it on Andy Reid or any of the offensive players he has, because those guys are absolute weapons. But it also doesn't help that their defense is not playing very well either. So I think sometimes your defense can have an effect on your offense, and just all around the team's not performing as they expected to.
Yeah, no, agreed on that. Now, Mike, thoughts, man? Like, what's up with Patrick Mahomes and Patrick Price?
Well, I think like what Adian said, I think teams are starting to figure him out, and the Super Bowl was a huge indicator, because what they did basically was they did bracket coverage on Tyreek and Kelsey, meaning they just put a linebacker they put a safety and a corner on each of those players, and then they just man everybody else. I mean, they don't have any other weapons that Mahomes can throw to, and they just basically just play man on everybody else and try and rush Mahomes with 4. I think that the offensive line, the new offensive line that they put together, is even worse than what it was in the Super Bowl. I remember when we were talking about that game and how we said that was going to be a glaring reason as to why the Chiefs were going to lose. But I think it's even worse. And I think Mahomes is at the point where he's really trying to prove himself to be one of those top echelon quarterbacks of all time. So I think he's putting a lot of pressure on himself as well.
Yes.
Is why he's pressing. He's making these terrible plays, and an alarming stat. Right now in game 10, he already has 10 interceptions, which is 3 more than he had all of last year. So that just goes to show that he's really trying to force the action, and he's not really letting the game come to him as he used to do.
Great point. And then, we're talking Raiders here, and we have Mr. Raider here, Brian. So Brian, I know we haven't really talked about it in the show, but literally the Raiders have one of the craziest seasons ever, yet they're still performing well. What's up with these guys? I mean, how are they still performing despite their entire organization being on fire?
Honestly, and to add even more fuel to the fire, I think that John Gruden has sued the NFL.
Yes,
and
he has. That came out
NFL
today.
Commissioner. Correct. Yeah, I think just recently today. So that just adds another story to what's going on with Las Vegas. Just another day here. But honestly, with all of these news, especially after John Gruden's firing, I think that the team rallied together, and I think they bonded together a little bit more as a team and connected a little bit more, and realized that they don't really need a decorated coach like John Gruden to succeed, even if they do have, that acting or the assistant coach that's replacing him. And, obviously with the tragedy that happened with one of the other Raiders players with the car accident, that did give them a hit. And that was really prevalent if you saw the Raiders-Giants game. So I honestly think that it's just going to make them keep going. Las Vegas honestly has that kind of resolve that has been built over the past couple of years, especially with the other tragedies that we faced as a city. So I think that also adds another element to it, kind of like how the fans is an extra player to the team. So I really think that could be one of the reasons why we're still fighting through the season.
Yeah. Big fan of resiliency. I mean, all I can say is go Raiders when it comes to, keeping on keeping. Now, let's finish up real quick, guys. Question of the week. Now, before it was announced that Odell Beckham Jr. would sign with the Rams, many rumors had him go into the already loaded Green Bay Packers. We talked about that. Now, question of the week is, which player from any league was rumored to go to your favorite team but broke your heart by going to another team? I'll start real quick. Has to be CP3. It wasn't even rumored. He was already set to go be traded to the Lakers from New Orleans. But that was hard capped by the commissioner.
David Stern.
Great.
Thank you, David Stern, for that. And that didn't happen. And what could have been CP3 at his prime and Kobe Bryant in his twilight years did not happen. Now, Mike, let's go to you.
I know I told you guys Randy Moss earlier, but I'm actually going to switch it to the time when we were about to get an NBA team from the Sacramento Kings, but Mayor Kevin Johnson stopped it.
Big ouch. Adian.
It's got to be Kawhi Leonard. After winning a championship, deciding not to stay in Toronto, but instead going to Los Angeles. What a heartbreaker.
Yeah, let's not run that back. Sorry, sir. Brian, finish it off.
TB12 to the Raiders. I mean, he already has a home in Las Vegas, so it was really highly speculated. But I mean, just like any other rumor, it's too good to be true. He joined the right team.
Yeah, he sure did. He got a chip from it. Now, thanks so much, everyone. That's all we have for this episode. On behalf of everyone on our panel, thank you so much for joining us, and be sure to tune in again next week. Make sure to visit our websites at eaglenews.net and eaglenewslive.com, as well as net25.com. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at EagleNewsPH to join the conversation. For Eagle News, I'm Ken Cruz. We live in interesting times.
Napapansin ba ninyo lumiliwanag ang mundo pag magkasama tayo?